Hi, I'm Dr. Michelle. I had a woman call me up because she had some unresolved grief around her husband, who she had lost 4 years ago. And she was scheduled to go into surgery, and she wanted to make sure that things were cleared before she went into the surgery. She was smart to do that because our attitude and our state of mind has a huge impact on the outcome of major medical intervention. When we talked, though, I discovered that part of her problem was that she was really mad at her husband. You would understand that we get mad when we have partner loss through divorce or through separation. But when we get mad or angry at somebody who dies, it's a much more complicated emotion. I mean, how can you be mad at somebody who died? Well, it happens because there's some way in which that partner has left us in a bad way, such as not being financially provided for, or maybe leaving us with a big mess, or both. And this is actually often the case when a widow has spent a lot of her time caring for the husband, sometimes years, and all the money goes into supporting them and taking care of them and paying for their health needs. And then they're gone, and then, the poor wife, she is left with a big mess. And this is not unusual. This is sometimes a really hard problem. However, the emotions can have a secondary and even worse effect on the widow if the emotional wounds and anger are not addressed. Here's why. Anger is part of the human body's survival mechanism. It's there to help us to fight back when we need to, when we're being attacked or threatened. For example, a little small bird chasing after a big, huge raptor because the raptor's getting too close to the bird's nest. The chemistry that's released in the body of that tiny bird makes it bold and aggressive and can literally chase that raptor, that eagle, or that hawk away. It reminds me of a time long ago when I was in graduate school and had gone to Indianapolis. I was at Indiana University, and a whole bunch of us went to Indianapolis to do a research project. And we were all staying in this sort of secondary hotel. The last night, we had a party, and I went to bed, and I was exhausted, and I was happy. And I wake up in the middle of the night and see a man standing in the light from the hallway with our door open. Never wake me up in the middle of the night. I went straight into anger and said, "Who are you? And what are you doing here?" Well, I shocked him. And he mumbled, "I'm waiting for Joe." I said, "What?" And he quickly closed the door. It turned out later that he was a hotel thief. Had I been afraid, he might have come in and robbed me blind. So anger is useful for protecting us from threat. It is part of our body's mechanism for keeping us alive. However, when we don't release that emotional energy, when it gets stuck in our bodies, when it gets caught in a loop, and we re-stimulate it, re-trigger it over and over again, it does damage to the body. But because the chemistry is designed to make your heart beat faster, for all your bodily resources to go to extremities so that you're prepared to fight or flee, the muscles tense, the eyes dilate. And if you maintain that state of alertness, you're using up your body's resources. And then the internal body mechanism of fighting off infection gets shut down while you're preparing to fight or flee. In addition, when you're tightening up all those muscles, you're actually preventing the flow of fluids and like your blood and your lymph in your body. So the important nutrients that need to get throughout your body are actually restricted. And oftentimes that over time, our bodies take on the posture, the defensive or protective posture that has been triggered by the original loss. Therefore, it's important to release that energy. First, you need to release the energy. You really need to release the emotions. Some of us have a difficult time with that because early on in our lives, we were taught to be strong. We were taught to tamp them down. We were taught to not be crybabies or little girls. We were taught to grow up. So it takes practice. It takes encouragement. It takes a safe place. And also the knowledge in how to release the emotions. They don't know how to do that out there. Recently, not too long ago, I was involved with a group that were trying to create a webinar series on loss, grief and loss. And it was the same old stuff. There was all this pretty flowery words, but there was no content. There was no real technique for how you release that emotional energy, how you calm the body down, how you really let it release out of your body so it doesn't come back a moment later, okay? So you can breathe and calm yourself down. But if you don't address the core, it's still there. And that becomes a problem for your health. Yeah, you can go into surgery, you can get your surgery, or you can take your medicine. But if you do not deal with the underlying emotional issues, they'll just pop up somewhere else. It's all about what the real source is. And oftentimes, a lot of our health issues are emotionally related. I always encourage people to look at the emotional level as well as the physical. And of course, you have to look at the physical. You have to look at the medical aspect, because once that emotion gets turned into real physical trauma or physical impact, now it's a health issue. Now it's real. Now it's affecting your bones. Now it's affecting your posture. Now it's affecting your cells. The root cause, I always invite people to look at two things. One is the body, and the other is the brain. The body is the part of ourselves that has the emotional reaction. It really gets triggered from the lower brainstem, which is an earlier version of the brain that is very instinctive and automatic. You always want to calm down the body when it's triggered so that your brain has a chance, the cerebral cortex, the higher mind, has a chance to come in and evaluate the situation. Otherwise, you can be, carted off with your emotions. You can be overwhelmed. The brain, of course, is the other side, because sometimes the brain's our friend, and sometimes the brain goes and conspires against us and brings up all these negative thoughts that re-trigger the emotions, that make us feel bad, that make us feel fearful. Oh my God, I'll never have enough money. Or victimhood. It's all his fault. I will never forgive him. Well, unforgiveness is a really bad place to be. And victimhood is a really bad place to be, because it leaves you waiting for the knight in shining armor. It leaves you powerless. I always work with my clients to change the story, to change their version from victimhood to empowerment. How can they see this? How can they see their loss? How can they see their circumstance as actually part of their life journey? What they need to do and what they're learning. That there are actually gifts of grief. That there is gold in the dirt. Of course, a lot of people are content to struggle. And it's only when things get really like up against the wall that they do something about this. I understand that. And this woman came to me because she had a physical, a surgery coming up. Sometimes people come to me because I had one woman come to me because she was in her late 80s and she was starting to look at the fact that if she didn't resolve these emotional issues, she was going to end her life never clearing with her children. And I have another woman who's having problems with her belly, with her stomach. And if she doesn't deal with the undigested emotions, it could blossom into something more serious. I don't mean to scare you. I'm just telling you the way it is, that our bodies are when we know them, when we understand them, we can do something about it. But if our approach is to just give ourselves a pill or to take tranquilizers or to take drugs or to do surgery, and we don't deal with the source, then the problem just pops up in another way. When we experience something difficult or challenging, there's often gifts. I said that already. So, for example, I learned to be a people pleaser very early in my life. I didn't believe that I would be taken care of or that I would get the attention or love I needed unless I proved that I was worthy. I had decided that I was unworthy. Well, the gift of that is that I am really good at reading people. I'm really good at identifying what it is that they need. Now, the downside of it is that it's not a good place to be as a coach. You also need to have leadership. You need to step into your power. The journey of life is to identify what the gifts are, utilize those, and also work on the things that you need to work on. Most of the good coaches I've known, they have had tough life experiences. It's put them to the test so that they can develop the skills and the knowledge they need to help other people. But just to have those skills without working on yourself to get yourself empowered is not enough. And so coaches, including me, have spent tens of thousands of dollars on their own development so that they can not only identify and commiserate with somebody who's struggling with the same things they struggled with, but actually to be able to guide them and lead them in a direction that will empower them and move them forward and get them unstuck and help them to release their emotions. That's what I offer. I wanted to see if there was anything else I wanted to share with you. Yeah, I can leave that. Well, I originally started working in this area of grief and loss at hospice. And what I have noticed is that in hospice, or a lot of these organizations, is they hire these young kids right out of college to be bereavement counselors. But they have no experience. They have no understanding of what the people who they're serving are going through. You need somebody who has been out on the playing field, that knows firsthand what it's like to deal with emotional loss. And in my case, knowing both the early childhood emotional wounds, and the loss of a partner, the loss of parents, the loss of close friends, I understand the process as well as the resistance and the defense mechanisms that we come up with to prevent ourselves from actually healing. I actually led a partner loss support group at hospice for 5 years. And now here's something that's interesting. This was an ongoing group. That is, people could join and they could stay as long as they needed to. And the problem is that they would bond with each other and then they didn't want to leave because they didn't have anybody else. These were their friends. There was a little bit of a problem in the conception of this group. Eventually, I needed to leave. And I created a deadline. I said, I'm going to be here for 6 more weeks. I will give you everything I can. I have to tell you, in those 6 weeks, there was more growth and more transformation than I had seen in all the rest of the 5 years that I had been running that group. There is something about putting that deadline out there. And guess what? We all have a deadline. We just don't know what it is, and we may not be paying attention to it. But that deadline is our lifeline. How long do we have here? My experience is life goes very, very, very fast. In fact, it seems to go faster now than it used to go. And I don't know whether that's because there's so much information that we're being overloaded with, that we have so much more to do, but time seems to really be picking up speed. So what are you going to do with your precious life? Are you being trapped or stuck by old emotions, by old losses that you have never dealt with? Is there some way in which you're not stepping up and into your power and purpose, leaving and sharing your gifts, making a difference in this world? That's my mission, to help people like you to make a difference in the world, to leave your legacy so you can live and die without regret. If you would like a conversation with me, to know more about how I help people and what I charge, I invite you to have a short conversation with me, an introductory conversation. I'm really friendly and I'm really good at talking to people and helping them to see what's going on inside. You can schedule this by going to meetwithdrmichelle.com. That's meet, MEET, with Dr. Dr. Michelle with 2 L's.com, and schedule a conversation. Or if you're not quite ready yet, go check out my website, www.secretsoflifeanddeath.com. Hope you enjoyed this Facebook Live. See you again next week, and bye for now.